We're kicking off today with Roman Reigns, who was last seen at WrestleMania 40 Night 2, as the former Universal Champion has been AWOL ever since his loss to Cody Rhodes. On last week's SmackDown, the Bloodline underwent a major shift, with Solo Sikoa establishing himself as leader and bringing in Tama Tonga to replace Jimmy Uso. While Reigns was nowhere to be seen, WrestleVotes reports that he will still have substantial creative input in the evolving Bloodline storyline over the course of the next few months. The report adds that Reigns will be out of action for an indefinite period of time, that the Tribal Chief is being advertised for the go-home episode of WWE SmackDown. Reigns is set for his longest break from WWE programming in a very long time, and while he won't be in the ring, he'll still have plenty to say into what makes it to TV. The former undisputed WWE Universal Champion won't be wrestling for some time, but that doesn't mean the Tribal Chief will be sat at home with nothing to do. Amidst his hiatus, Roman Reigns has been occupied with an acting project alongside Lauren Kiki Palmer, a talent who's worked on big things, including Jordan Peele's Nope. According to IMDb, Reigns is involved in a new film titled Good Fortune, which includes a star-studded cast including Keanu Reeves, Seth Rogen, Sandra Oh, and others. Directed by Aziz Ansari, the film promises to be an action comedy, although specifics about the plot are yet to be disclosed. While fans await Reigns' next appearance in WWE, anticipation mounts for the release of Good Fortune, as seeing him share the screen with Keanu has left fans excited. Will Reigns dominate in Hollywood like his cousin The Rock has? That remains to be seen, but the head of the table is certainly making the most from his WWE break. On this week's NXT, it was revealed that the No Quarter Catch crew had paid Tony D'Angelo's family to take care of a former member, which was obviously the missing Drew Gulak. Gulak has been pulled from all plans after Ronda Rousey revealed he pulled on her sweatpants drawstring during her run, in a moment that made her very uncomfortable. During Fightful's post-NXT show, it was said that there is a directive not to mention Gulak, and the last thing WWE wants is to bring attention to what has transpired. Brian Alvarez of the Wrestling Observer reports that WWE conducted an investigation into Rousey's claims and interviewed individuals involved in the incident. Gulak has admitted to the incident, but has said that it was an accident and he apologized, and while we don't know this investigation's outcome, Gulak's future in WWE remains uncertain. Over to Dynamite now, and lately, a partnership between Hook and Chris Jericho has been on display as the two have teamed together and faced off during a recent Blockbuster showdown. On this week's Dynamite, the two had an in-ring confrontation officiated by Taz, and Jericho offered to be Hook's teacher moving forward, saying he could benefit under the learning tree. Hook politely declined the offer, which led to Jericho sounding off on Taz for not embedding the right instincts in his son to take opportunities, and berated Taz as a bad example to Hook. Jericho crossed the line by shoving Taz to the mat, infuriating Hook, who put Chris in the corner with a warning to never cross that line before exiting the ring. Dynamite also saw a dream match as Will Ospreay took on Claudio Castagnoli, and the Essex-born wrestler was able to find a counter for the big swing. Before Claudio could pick up momentum in his rotations, Ospreay countered by clutching the head of his opponent and was able to drive Castagnoli down with a DDT. That didn't finish the match, but Ospreay did score the pinfall with a hidden blade in a big win for the relatively fresh AEW signing. Just days ahead of Dynasty, Swerve Strickland had one final confrontation with Samoa Joe, and Strickland vowed to be the world champion and said he'd tell Joe to his face. Joe came out, but the pair were separated by security, but Strickland took out all of the security before starting a final brawl between himself and Joe that would end up with the champ standing tall. Joe hit a muscle buster to win the exchange and ended the show holding up his title as tensions continue to mount mere days away from their showdown at Dynasty. It's been nearly 3 months since Vince McMahon resigned from WWE for the second time, and right now, federal authorities are overseeing an investigation into the ex-chairman. According to a report from NBC News and CNBC, McMahon is cooperating with authorities during the investigation and believes no charges will be brought against him. McMahon is also confident that Janel Grant's lawsuit against him will be settled out of court, though a spokesperson for Grant's attorneys made clear that there has been no settlement talk. This suggests that McMahon's confidence is based more on what he hopes happens more than what the evidence suggests, as Grant seemingly has no intentions to settle. There has been no official comment from Nicole Biasi, a spokesperson for the U.S. Attorney's Office for New York's Southern District, as the case continues to develop. Win or lose, McMahon's days in WWE are seemingly over for good, but in spite of everything that's happened already, Vince is confident that this case will go as he hopes. It was reported recently that nobody in WWE was left defending McMahon, as they recognize that he isn't coming back, but that doesn't mean he's out of wrestling entirely. According to NBC News, McMahon is still in contact with TKO board member Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who arrived on the board around the same time as Grant's lawsuit. Many therefore saw The Rock's appointment to the board as TKO's efforts to replace McMahon with a more well-known and more well-received face in the public eye. McMahon remains in contact with John Cena, but the specific nature of their discussions has not been disclosed, though the fact that they still talk has certainly raised eyebrows. Vince McMahon is no longer in WWE, but some relationships he has forged during his time in the company are meant for life, though as we said, he receives no official support backstage. In response to this report, a spokesperson for Janel Grant lambasted The Rock and Cena for associating with McMahon, believing it says plenty about their character. The statement reads, "It's shameful that Mr. Johnson and Mr. Cena would associate themselves with an individual with decades of allegations just like Janel's. Behind-the-scenes support is louder than any public statement ever could be." To be fair, Cena did give public comments about McMahon, which earned him some backlash, as he gushed over his love for Vince with only a handful of mentions of accountability. Ultimately, McMahon's era in wrestling is over, but he still has those he's close to, and will continue to follow arguably the biggest legal case in wrestling as developments come out. More from Dynamite, and following his win at Windy City Riot, new IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Jon Moxley was on the show with an address for the people. Moxley spoke about those who doubted his talent and capabilities and vowed to climb more mountains in the future before addressing his feud with the Don Callis family. Moxley invited Powerhouse Hobbs to face him on next week's Dynamite, as the new champion is ready to keep up a busy schedule both in AEW and New Japan. Adam Copeland was set for a mixed tag match on Dynamite, but his tag team partner Willow Nightingale was found backstage, seemingly following an attack. Moments later, Julia Hart and Brody King, the scheduled opponents, surrounded Copeland, and with no Nightingale around, this became a handicap match for the Rated R superstar. Copeland was able to hold his own against King and nearly got the win, and after a while, Willow made it to the ring, making this the planned mixed tag, though the faces were at a disadvantage. Julia Hart took advantage and blindsided Willow with a steel chain before getting the submission win, and she didn't break the hold until Mercedes Moné came out with a steel chair. The momentum is firmly behind the AEW TBS champion, and we'll have to see if she's standing tall when she defends the gold against Willow at Dynasty. During the March 18th Raw in the run-up to WrestleMania, Cody Rhodes cut a scathing promo on The Rock, which saw the American Nightmare use some uncharacteristic language. Rhodes started off by acknowledging Roman Reigns as a great champion before turning his attention to The Rock and refuted the final boss's claim of being a heel. Rhodes took a jab at The Rock's influence at the TKO board, mentioned the "We Want Cody" movement, and spoke about his respect for The Rock's mother as well as his own. This seems like nothing out of the ordinary for Rhodes, but he also called The Rock an ass with little syndrome in some lines that certainly caught fan attention. While speaking on the SI Media podcast, Cody Rhodes addressed what he said and admitted he felt guilty as he didn't want younger fans to ask what he meant. He said, "Fans in the arena loved it. There was a huge joy to this interview I did. However, for me, I felt a little guilty because I have a lot of young fans, and I would never want them to ask their mom about LDS or this or that. My run with WWE has been really for the family audience and really for the little nightmares, these little kiddos. I just wouldn't want to lead them astray in any way, and hopefully that interview didn't turn them off to me, if I am their guy, as their guy. Everyone after me was so pumped about it. My wife was digging it, and I remembered thinking I felt a little guilty." It's to be noted that WWE has relaxed their PG guidelines for top stars, which is why Cody Rhodes was able to use such language during the fiery promo. Now Rhodes is the undisputed WWE champion and has bigger things to be concerned about than his language, including The Rock's threat that he's coming for Cody when the time is right. Last night, WWE hosted a live event in Jacksonville, Florida, which is considered the home of AEW, and that fact did not go unnoticed by Grayson Waller. In an interview ahead of the show, Waller didn't mention AEW by name, but said he was thrilled to finally bring great wrestling to Jacksonville, saying they hadn't seen great wrestling in years. This comment caught the attention of Dax Harwood, who had a cheeky comment of his own, as he said if the fans want great wrestling, he hopes Waller doesn't have a match on the card. Waller ultimately did compete on the card, presumably to the chagrin of Dax Harwood. And what do you make of these comments from both sides? Let us know down below. On this week's NXT, Tatum Paxley discussed some of the great NXT women's champions, but the 413-day reign of Mandy Rose was not mentioned, a move some feel was deliberate. Some have argued that this was because of Rose's controversial release from WWE in December 2022, and now the ex-superstar herself has responded to this snub. Responding to a fan who shared their issues with the NXT segment in question, Rose said she was disappointed to be snubbed, but not surprised by the move. Rose has been open to wrestling again, but this snubbing on NXT has clearly not gone down well, potentially spoiling a future return for the popular ex-superstar. Right now, few names in WWE get a louder reaction than Dominik Mysterio, and few audiences give a louder response than those in the United Kingdom. This week, WWE embarked on a European tour which kicked off with last night's show in Birmingham, but Dirty Dom has not made the trip overseas despite initial plans. Fightful Select reports that internal memos revealed that Mysterio had been pulled from the tour and would likely be replaced by Ricochet. It's unclear why Mysterio has been pulled, and we can only hope that it isn't an injury, and we'll try and find out more about this situation with the European tour. Since All In 2023, Jack Perry has been suspended from AEW programming, with many feeling that his 8 months punishment doesn't fit the crime of his incident with CM Punk. Perry recently appeared at New Japan's Windy City Riot event wearing a jacket emblazoned with Crimea River and had several Punk-inspired moves during his match. Tony Khan was also at the show, and when asked by Chris Russell about the decision to air the All In footage last week, the AEW president acknowledged Perry for the first time in months. It was fascinating to see, after that tape played, the reaction that Jack Perry got at New Japan Pro Wrestling this week. He got the reaction of a superstar. That is not altogether unexpected, and it's something very interesting, perhaps as a side effect of this. Jack Perry is already a big star in wrestling. Really, the way the crowd connected with him in Chicago, that was interesting to see. Some believe airing the footage will be the catalyst to bring Perry back to TV, but nothing is for certain yet, but the former Jungle Boy is certainly making waves, even while off AEW TV. For years, Nikki Garcia dominated WWE's Divas division, but during a recent interview, she revealed that she almost called Tony Khan about an AEW role after Mercedes Monet's debut. During the Battleground podcast, Khan was asked about the former Nikki Bella and said he'd be very interested in her joining and that he has a lot of respect for Nikki and Brie. Garcia has made a name for herself in and out of wrestling, and do you think she should be All Elite? Let us know down in the comments. At WrestleMania 40, Gunther's historical Intercontinental title reign was ended by Sami Zayn, and the Austrian powerhouse was not seen on the following episodes of Raw. Now though, Gunther has resurfaced as the former champion has found himself in the role of challenger during a recent WWE live event in Birmingham, England. That match saw Gunther challenge Sami Zayn for the gold in a fatal four-way that included two-time former champion Finn Balor and the recently heel-turned Chad Gable. Despite the odds being against him, Zayn left Birmingham with the title, and we have to wonder what's next for Gunther as he deals with his WrestleMania 40 defeat. Fans have been speculating about Gunther's future plans, wondering if he might set his sights on the World Heavyweight Championship after WrestleMania 40. Gunther had said during his reign that being a double champion wasn't for him, but now that he's no longer holding the IC gold, it'll be interesting to see what's next for the Ring General. In recent years, WWE has begun hosting more and more premium live events outside of North America, but WWE's biggest events of the year will not be moving off the continent. Speaking at the SBJ World Congress of Sports, WWE's Nick Khan said that the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series will continue to be in the US or Canada. Khan added that other PLEs such as Backlash, Elimination Chamber, and King of the Ring may take place internationally before turning his attention to WrestleMania 41. Khan has not yet disclosed any specifics, but indicated that it won't be held in an outdoor East Coast stadium, nor will it coincide with the NCAA men's tournament. This seemingly hints at a possible venue in Las Vegas, but for now, the official host of the show remains unknown, despite the event being less than a year away. Earlier this year, Jim Ross signed a one-year extension deal with AEW and has been part of the commentary team ever since, and fans can expect that role to continue. On his Grilling JR podcast, Ross went into detail about Tony Khan's plans for him, as the legendary broadcaster will be kept for AEW's biggest events. He said, "Tony's got me doing pay-per-views. At least that's the plan today, and I hope it stays that way because I have something to look forward to. They're big events. That card for St. Louis? My God, that son of a bitch is star-studded, man. It's like a major pay-per-view, which is what it is." JR has also confirmed that 2024 will be his last year commentating, and we'll have to see how he performs this weekend at the first AEW Dynasty pay-per-view. Now, this week's NXT saw Trick Williams defeat Carmelo Hayes in a steel cage match, and with the WWE draft looming, many feel this was Hayes' last NXT match. The crowd in attendance certainly think this, as Hayes was greeted with "thank you Mello" chants after the show, but Hayes was in no mood for these kind words. A certain hand gesture made clear what Hayes thought of the fan support, and whether it's in NXT or on the main roster, Mello is going to do things his way, with or without the fans. The Young Bucks were on Dynamite to team with Kazuchika Okada against Penta, Pac, and Daniel Garcia, and the Bucks referenced FTR before the match in a backstage segment. Okada also issued a warning to Pac, building two Dynasty matches at once, and the Bucks attacked Pac from behind, while Okada went after Garcia and Penta on the apron. Pac recovered to unleash some fast kicks, and mid-match, Matt Jackson grabbed the mic to taunt his opponents and slapped Garcia around until he was finally taken down with a suplex. Pac and Okada finally came face to face and traded strikes, and this was a fun trios bout with some humor mixed into the high-energy action. Speaking of humor, the match also saw references to CM Punk as Nick Jackson hit a step-up corner knee, which resulted in the crowd chanting for the WWE superstar. Again, AEW seems dedicated to remind fans about the All-In backstage altercation, despite many being of the opinion that airing the footage did more harm than good. The fans were also having fun in this match, with one fan holding up a sign reading "Roman fears Ospreay" during the Elite's entrance, and we're sure plenty of people would love to see that match. It's so good to see Pac back in AEW, as he has had so many hiatuses for different reasons, but he seems healthy and has been appearing regularly. Everyone worked hard in this match, but you could tell nobody wanted to take too many risks before AEW Dynasty this weekend, and rightfully so. The Elite won, but continued to attack everyone after the match with a ladder as they put Garcia inside a ladder for a splash, but Pac saved him with a bell hammer. Tony Storm and Luther both accompanied Mariah May for her match, but that wasn't enough to stop Deonna Purrazzo, who got the win over the champ's understudy. A post-match beatdown on Purrazzo was ended by Thunder Rosa, building towards her showdown with Storm at AEW Dynasty. Orange Cassidy defeated Shane Taylor in a forgettable match, but Trent Beretta being around did further the feud between himself and Freshly Squeezed. This week's Dynamite may have been the go-home episode before Dynasty, but the biggest development took place after Dynamite went off the air. In the ring, Ruby Soho spoke to the fans and her partner Angelo Parker before revealing that she is pregnant, which got huge cheers from the fans. This is wonderful news for Soho and Parker, and will of course mean that Ruby won't be competing anytime soon, as the ex-superstar prepares to become a mother. Soho will join the likes of Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey, and other wrestling moms, and we'd like to send our congratulations to her and Parker as they prepare for this new chapter in their lives. And we're ending with Shawn Spears, who relatively recently made his return to WWE NXT, but the former AEW talent is doing much more than appearing on TV. Fightful Select reports that Spears was working as a producer at this week's show, and has overshadowed veteran Johnny Moss as Spears broadens his roles outside the squared circle.